The air in the grand reception hall of the Workers' Party of Korea headquarters was thick with the scent of polished wood and stale incense. Sunlight, filtered through heavy velvet drapes, cast long, dusty shadows across the ornate carpets. Kim Jong-un, Supreme Leader of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, sat at the head of a massive, dark mahogany table, his gaze fixed on the reports before him. His morning had begun, as most did, with a meticulous review of state affairs, agricultural yields, industrial output, and the latest intelligence briefings from the Ministry of State Security. The rhythmic click of his pen against the paper was the only sound, a stark counterpoint to the silent, watchful presence of his senior advisors, arrayed around the table like statues. Suddenly, a commotion erupted at the far end of the hall. A young boy, no older than 10, with disheveled hair and tear-streaked cheeks, burst through the heavy doors, pushing past the startled guards. His small frame trembled, clad in a threadbare tunic that was too large for him. He stumbled forward, his eyes wide, with a mixture of terror and desperate hope, fixed solely on the figure at the head of the table. "Sir, Supreme Leader," the boy cried, his voice cracking with emotion. "Please, sir, avenge my dad." The room froze. The advisors, men who had faced down international sanctions and internal purges without flinching, now exchanged bewildered glances. Guards, initially stunned by the boy's audacity, moved to apprehend him, their hands reaching for his small shoulders. But Kim Jong-un raised a hand, a subtle gesture that halted them instantly. His expression, usually a carefully constructed mask of authority and resolve, softened almost imperceptibly. He studied the boy, whose desperate plea echoed in the sudden silence. "Let him speak," Kim Jong-un commanded, his voice calm but firm, cutting through the tension. The guards hesitated, then reluctantly stepped back, their eyes still wary. The boy, emboldened by the Supreme Leader's unexpected clemency, took a shaky breath and continued, his words tumbling out in a rush. "They took him, sir, the men in black uniforms. They said he was a traitor, but he wasn't. My father, Comrade Ri Chun-ho, he was loyal. He worked at the Pyongyang textile factory. Sir, he loved our nation." Tears streamed down his face, blurring his vision. "They came last night, dragged him away. My mother tried to stop them, but they pushed her. She's sick, sir, she needs him. Please, Supreme Leader, they killed him. I know they did. Avenge my dad." The boy's raw anguish hung heavy in the air. Kim Jong-un leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing slightly. Ri Chun-ho, a textile worker. This was not the usual fare of high-level political intrigue or military intelligence. This was a cry from the heart of the common people, a direct appeal that bypassed the layers of bureaucracy and protocol. He looked at his chief of staff, General Pak Jong-chun, a man known for his unwavering loyalty and ruthless efficiency. "General Pak," Kim Jong-un said, his voice low, "identify this boy. Find out everything about his father, Ri Chun-ho, and the circumstances of his apprehension. I want a full report on my desk by noon." General Pak, a formidable figure with a stern face, bowed deeply. "Yes, Supreme Leader. It shall be done." Kim Jong-un then turned his attention back to the boy, who stood trembling, awaiting his fate. "What is your name, son?" he asked, his tone surprisingly gentle. "Ri Jinwoo, sir," the boy whispered, wiping his nose with the back of his hand. "Ri Jinwoo," Kim Jong-un repeated, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Your father's loyalty will be judged by the truth, not by accusations. If he was innocent, justice will be served. I give you my word." The boy, overwhelmed, could only nod, tears still flowing, but now mixed with a glimmer of hope. The Supreme Leader then signaled to a female aide, who gently led Jinwoo away, promising him food and comfort. As the doors closed behind them, a profound silence descended upon the hall once more. The advisors, who had witnessed this extraordinary exchange, felt a chill run down their spines. This was not just a boy's plea, it was a direct challenge to the very system of justice and security they oversaw. And the Supreme Leader's response, so swift and personal, had indeed paralyzed them, forcing them to confront the possibility of a grave injustice within their own ranks. The morning's agenda was forgotten. A new, far more urgent matter had taken precedence. The first rays of dawn barely touched the peaks of Mount Paektu when Kim Jong-un's day began. Long before the sun casts its golden glow over Pyongyang, the Supreme Leader was already awake, his mind sharp and focused. His private residence, nestled within a sprawling, heavily guarded compound, was a sanctuary of quiet efficiency. The interior, a blend of traditional Korean aesthetics and modern comfort, was meticulously maintained. His bedroom, spacious yet understated, featured a large window overlooking a serene, manicured garden. A personal valet, Comrade Kim, a man whose loyalty was as unquestionable as his discretion, was always the first to enter. He moved with practiced silence, preparing the day's attire. Today, it was a dark, impeccably tailored Mao suit, the preferred uniform for official duties, symbolizing both tradition and revolutionary spirit. Kim Jong-un rose from his bed, a custom-made mattress designed for optimal support, and proceeded to his private bathroom. The room was a study in minimalist luxury, with polished marble surfaces and state-of-the-art fixtures. His morning routine was precise: a quick, invigorating shower, followed by a shave performed with a traditional straight razor, a ritual he found both meditative and grounding. As he dressed, Comrade Kim laid out the day's schedule on a small antique desk. It was a dense itinerary, packed with meetings, inspections, and policy reviews, each item carefully timed. While dressing, he would often listen to the state radio, absorbing the official news and propaganda broadcasts, gauging the public mood and the effectiveness of the party's messaging. He preferred to hear it unfiltered, rather than relying solely on summaries. Breakfast was a solitary affair, served in a small, elegant dining room adjacent to his study. The meal was always a carefully balanced spread, prepared by a team of highly trained chefs. Today, it consisted of a bowl of traditional juk rice porridge with finely shredded chicken and ginseng, a plate of fresh seasonal fruits, often imported, a subtle indulgence, and a small portion of kimchi, fermented cabbage, a staple of the Korean diet. A cup of freshly brewed coffee, strong and black, completed the meal. As he ate, he would review the initial intelligence reports that had arrived overnight. These were often raw, unverified snippets, but they provided a crucial early warning system for any potential instability or external threats. He preferred to digest this information before his formal briefings, allowing him to formulate his own initial assessments. This morning, however, the usual calm was disturbed by the memory of Jin-woo's desperate plea. The boy's face, etched with grief and hope, lingered in his mind. It was an anomaly, a direct human appeal that cut through the layers of state machinery. He finished his coffee, his brow furrowed in thought. The incident with the boy was not just a matter of justice, it was a test of his leadership, a demonstration of whether the system he commanded truly served the people, or if it had become a tool for arbitrary power. He knew that any perceived injustice, if left unaddressed, could fester and undermine public trust, even in a tightly controlled society. After breakfast, he moved to his study, a room filled with books on military strategy, political philosophy, and Korean history. Here, he would spend a few minutes in quiet contemplation, often reviewing maps of the Korean peninsula or global geopolitical hotspots. He believed in understanding the broader context before delving into the specifics of daily governance. His desk, a large, imposing piece of furniture, was meticulously organized, reflecting his disciplined approach to leadership. He picked up the phone, a secure line connecting him directly to General Pak. "General," he said, his voice devoid of emotion, "I want an update on Ri Chun-ho, and I want to know who authorized his arrest. Leave no stone unturned." The general's affirmative response was immediate. Kim Jong-un hung up, his gaze drifting to a framed photograph on his desk, a picture of his father, Kim Jong-il, and his grandfather, Kim Il-sung. The weight of their legacy, and the responsibility of leading the nation, was a constant presence. The day had truly begun, and with it, the pursuit of justice for a textile worker's son. General Pak Jong-chun was a man of few words but immense capability. His office, a Spartan room within the Ministry of State Security complex, was a hive of activity. Following the Supreme Leader's direct order, he had immediately mobilized his most trusted agents. The case of Ri Chun-ho, a seemingly insignificant textile worker, had suddenly become the highest priority. By mid-morning, initial reports began to trickle in. Ri Chun-ho, 45 years old, was indeed a worker at the Pyongyang textile factory. His record was clean, no history of dissent, no suspicious contacts, a model citizen by all accounts. He was known for his diligence and quiet demeanor. His wife, Ri Myung, was a homemaker, suffering from a chronic respiratory illness. Their son, Jin-woo, was a bright student. The first anomaly appeared in the arrest warrant. It was issued by a mid-level officer within the Ministry of State Security, a Captain Lee Mung-soo, under the vague charge of anti-state activities. General Pak knew Captain Lee. He was ambitious, ruthless, and had a reputation for exceeding his authority, often to impress superiors. But to arrest a seemingly innocuous factory worker without substantial evidence was unusual, even for Lee. Pak suspected a deeper motive. He ordered Captain Lee brought in for questioning, along with the entire team involved in Ri Chun-ho's apprehension. Simultaneously, he dispatched a separate team to the textile factory to interview Ri Chun-ho's colleagues and supervisors, and another to his home to speak with his wife, ensuring her comfort and safety. Meanwhile, Kim Jong-un was engaged in his own routine. After his morning review, he held a series of meetings with key economic advisors. The discussions revolved around increasing agricultural output, modernizing industrial infrastructure, and navigating the complexities of international sanctions. He listened intently, interjecting with sharp questions, demonstrating a profound understanding of the intricate details of the national economy. He emphasized self-reliance, the Jukki ideology, as the cornerstone of their economic policy. "We must innovate," he declared, his voice resonating with conviction. We must find our own solutions, build our own strength. Relying on others is a path to weakness. Despite the gravity of these discussions, the image of Jinwoo's tear-streaked face remained in his peripheral vision. He knew that true strength came not just from economic prosperity or military might, but from the unwavering loyalty of the people, a loyalty that could be shattered by perceived injustice. During a brief break, he summoned General Pak for an update. "What have you found, General?" Kim Jong-un asked, his tone betraying a hint of impatience. General Pak presented his preliminary findings. Supreme Leader Ri Chun-ho appears to be an ordinary citizen. No known affiliations with hostile elements. The arrest warrant was issued by Captain Lee Moon-soo. We are questioning him now. His initial statements are vague, citing intelligence that has yet to be substantiated. Kim Jong-un's eyes narrowed. Intelligence, or fabrication? General, I want to know the source of this intelligence. And I want to know if Captain Lee has any personal connections to Ri Chun-ho or his family. This smells of something more than a routine security matter. General Pak nodded, understanding the unspoken implication. The Supreme Leader suspected a personal vendetta or, worse, a deliberate frame-up. We are investigating all angles, Supreme Leader. We have also secured Ri Chun-ho's home and are ensuring his wife receives medical attention and provisions. Kim Jong-un acknowledged this with a slight nod. Good. Keep me informed. And General, ensure that Captain Lee understands the gravity of misleading the Supreme Leader. His career, and perhaps his life, depend on the truth. As General Pak departed, Kim Jong-un returned to his economic meeting. But his mind was already shifting gears. The political intrigue was beginning to unfold. He understood that power dynamics within the party and the security apparatus were complex, often involving rivalries and factions. A seemingly minor incident like Ri Chun-ho's arrest could be a symptom of a larger, more insidious plot. He recalled lessons from his father and grandfather, who had navigated treacherous political landscapes. Loyalty was paramount, but blind loyalty could be exploited. He needed to see beyond the surface, to uncover the hidden currents that threatened the stability of the state. The echoes of the past, of purges and power struggles, resonated in his thoughts. He knew that to truly lead, he had to be both the ultimate authority and the ultimate arbiter of justice, even for the humblest of his citizens. The afternoon brought a series of high-level policy meetings. Kim Jong-un moved from his study to the main conference room, a grand chamber adorned with portraits of his predecessors and large, detailed maps of the nation. The air was charged with anticipation as ministers and senior party officials awaited his arrival. He entered with a purposeful stride, his presence commanding immediate respect and silence. Today's agenda included discussions on national defense, foreign policy, and the ongoing efforts to develop advanced weaponry. He listened intently to reports from the Chief of the General Staff, detailing the readiness of the Korean People's Army, and from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, outlining the latest diplomatic overtures and international reactions to their nuclear program. His questions were incisive, demonstrating a deep understanding of military strategy and geopolitical complexities. He challenged assumptions, demanded precise data, and pushed his advisors to think beyond conventional approaches. Our defense, he stated, his voice firm, is not merely about deterrence. It is about self-preservation, about ensuring the sovereignty and dignity of our nation against all threats. We must be innovative, resourceful, and unwavering in our resolve. He approved new initiatives for military modernization, emphasizing the importance of indigenous technological development. He also reviewed intelligence reports concerning the activities of hostile foreign powers, particularly their surveillance efforts and attempts to destabilize the region. Between these weighty discussions, General Pak provided a discreet update on the Ri Chun-ho case. Captain Lee Moon-soo, under intense interrogation, had finally broken. He admitted that the intelligence was fabricated. The real reason for Ri Chun-ho's arrest was a personal vendetta. Ri Chun-ho's younger sister, Ri Yoon-ji, had recently rejected Captain Lee's advances. Enraged by the perceived slight, Lee had used his position to frame Ri Chun-ho, hoping to coerce the family. However, the situation was more complicated. Lee had not acted alone. He had been given tacit approval, and even encouragement, by a higher-ranking official, Deputy Director Choi Jin-woo of the Ministry of State Security. Choi, a man known for his ruthlessness and ambition, had seen an opportunity to consolidate his power by demonstrating his willingness to act decisively, even if it meant bending the rules. He had also been cultivating a network of loyalists within the security apparatus, bypassing established chains of command. Kim Jong-un listened, his face impassive. The details confirmed his suspicions of a deeper rot. Deputy Director Choi, he mused, his voice dangerously quiet. A man who believes himself above the law. General Pak, I want Deputy Director Choi brought in. Discreetly, I want his office sealed, his communications monitored, and his entire network investigated. This is not just about Ri Chun-ho. It is about the integrity of the state security apparatus. No one is above the law, especially those entrusted with upholding it. General Pak bowed, his expression grim. He understood the gravity of the Supreme Leader's directive. This was a purge in the making, a swift and decisive move to root out corruption and disloyalty at a high level. Later in the afternoon, Kim Jong-un conducted an inspection of a newly constructed residential complex on the outskirts of Pyongyang. He walked through the apartments, examining the quality of the construction, the amenities, and speaking with the workers and future residents. He emphasized the importance of providing comfortable and modern housing for the people, a testament to the party's commitment to improving living standards. He asked about the availability of schools, hospitals, and recreational facilities in the area, demonstrating a holistic approach to urban planning. His interactions were cordial, yet authoritative, projecting an image of a leader deeply concerned with the welfare of his citizens. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the city, Kim Jong-un returned to his compound. The day had been a whirlwind of governance, from the highest matters of state security to the most mundane details of urban development. But beneath it all, the quiet pursuit of justice for Ri Chun-ho continued, a thread weaving through the fabric of his daily life. He knew that the true measure of a leader was not just in grand pronouncements, but in the meticulous attention to detail, the unwavering commitment to justice, and the relentless pursuit of those who would undermine the trust between the people and the party. The machinery of state was vast and complex, but he was its ultimate engineer, and he would ensure it functioned with precision and integrity. The investigation into Deputy Director Choi Jin-woo quickly escalated. General Pak's agents, moving with surgical precision, apprehended Choi at his office late in the evening. His initial arrogance quickly dissolved under the relentless questioning. It became clear that Choi's involvement in Ri Chun-ho's frame-up was merely a small piece of a much larger, more ambitious scheme. Choi, it turned out, was at the center of a clandestine network within the Ministry of State Security, a faction that sought to undermine the Supreme Leader's authority and consolidate power for themselves. They had been systematically identifying and eliminating perceived rivals, fabricating charges, and exploiting the system for personal gain. Ri Chun-ho, an innocent man, had simply been a convenient target, a demonstration of their unchecked power. The interrogation revealed that Choi and his conspirators had been in secret communication with external elements, specifically a shadowy group of defectors and foreign intelligence operatives based in Macau. Their plan was audacious: to create internal instability through a series of high-profile arrests and disappearances, sowing discord and distrust within the party and the military. This internal chaos would then be exploited by the external forces, who promised Choi and his faction significant power and wealth in a reformed North Korea. The ultimate goal was nothing less than a coup, a silent overthrow of the current leadership, orchestrated from within. Kim Jong-un received these revelations in his private study, late into the night. The reports, delivered personally by General Pak, painted a chilling picture. He sat in silence for a long time, absorbing the details. The betrayal was profound, reaching into the very heart of his security apparatus. The audacity of the plot, the willingness of these individuals to sell out their nation for personal ambition, filled him with a cold fury. "Macau," he murmured, his voice barely audible. "They believe they can manipulate our internal affairs from a foreign shore." He looked at General Pak, his eyes burning with resolve. "General, this is not just a matter of internal security. This is an act of war. We will not tolerate such treachery. I want every member of Choi's network identified. Every single one. And I want a plan to neutralize the external elements in Macau. This conspiracy must be crushed, utterly and completely." General Pak, a man who had seen many purges, understood the gravity of the Supreme Leader's words. "Yes, Supreme Leader. We have already begun to identify Choi's associates. Their communications are being intercepted, their movements tracked. As for Macau, we have assets there, but a direct operation would be complex, requiring careful planning and deniability." Kim Jong-un nodded. "Complexity is no excuse for inaction. We will use all means necessary. This is a matter of national survival." The next morning, Kim Jong-un maintained his usual public schedule, a deliberate act of defiance against the hidden threat. He visited a collective farm, inspecting the harvest and praising the efforts of the farmers. He walked through the fields, engaging in casual conversation, projecting an image of calm and stability. He understood that any sign of weakness or internal strife could embolden his enemies. While publicly he was the benevolent leader, privately his mind was a whirlwind of strategic planning. He held a series of discreet meetings with his most trusted advisors, excluding anyone even remotely connected to Choi's network. He reviewed detailed maps of Macau, analyzing potential targets and operational routes. He ordered the activation of sleeper agents, individuals who had been embedded for years, awaiting a critical mission. The whispers of the conspiracy, once confined to the shadows, were now being brought into the light. The scale of the betrayal was immense, but so was the Supreme Leader's resolve. He knew that this was a pivotal moment, a test of his leadership and the resilience of the state. He would not allow his nation to be destabilized by traitors and foreign manipulators. The pursuit of justice for Ri Chun-ho had inadvertently uncovered a viper's nest, and Kim Jong-un was determined to cleanse it, no matter the cost. The shadows had been exposed, and now, the hunt truly began. The burden of leadership weighed heavily on Kim Jong-un. The discovery of the extensive conspiracy, reaching into the highest echelons of the Ministry of State Security, was a profound shock. It was a betrayal not just of him, but of the entire nation. He spent long hours in his study, poring over intelligence reports, cross-referencing names, and analyzing communication intercepts. The faces of the conspirators, once trusted officials, now appeared as masks of deceit. He felt a deep sense of responsibility, not only to punish the traitors, but to ensure that such a plot could never again threaten the stability of the state. His daily routines continued, a carefully choreographed performance for the public and the international community. He visited a newly opened science and technology center, marveling at the advancements made by Korean scientists and engineers. He delivered a rousing speech, emphasizing the importance of scientific innovation for national prosperity and self-reliance. His words were filled with optimism and confidence, a stark contrast to the grim reality of the internal struggle he was waging. He wore a light gray suit, projecting an image of modernity and progress, his demeanor calm and assured. During a private lunch, served in a small, elegant room overlooking a tranquil pond, he discussed the operational details for Macau with General Pak and the head of the Reconnaissance General Bureau, General Ri Yong-gil, a man known for his expertise in covert operations. The plan was intricate, involving multiple teams and layers of deniability. The objective was not just to apprehend the external conspirators, but to gather irrefutable evidence of their foreign backing, to expose the full extent of the plot. "We must be surgical," Kim Jong-un instructed, his voice low and precise. "No collateral damage, no international incidents that can be exploited by our enemies. This must be a clean operation, a demonstration of our reach and our resolve." General Ri outlined the proposed strategy. "Supreme Leader, our agents in Macau have identified the primary contact, a former high-ranking defector named Kong Min-jun, who now operates a casino as a front for his intelligence activities. He is protected by a private security detail, but we have identified vulnerabilities. We propose a snatch hand-grab operation, targeting Kang and his key associates, extracting them to a secure location for interrogation. We will also seize their communication devices and financial records." Kim Jong-un listened, his gaze fixed on a detailed map of Macau spread across the table. He asked about escape routes, contingency plans, and the potential for resistance. He left no detail unexamined, no risk unmitigated. The weight of these decisions was immense. He knew that the lives of his agents, and the reputation of his nation, rested on his judgment. He also knew that failure was not an option. The conspiracy had to be dismantled, and the message sent, both internally and externally, that betrayal would not be tolerated. After the meeting, he took a solitary walk through the palace gardens. The cool evening air, a welcome respite from the intensity of his thoughts. He reflected on the nature of power, the constant vigilance required to maintain it, and the sacrifices demanded of those who wield it. He thought of Ri Jinwoo, the boy whose desperate plea had inadvertently triggered this massive counter-operation. It was a stark reminder that even the smallest injustice could unravel a larger truth, and that the leader's duty was to protect all his people, from the highest official to the humblest worker. Later, he reviewed the latest reports on Ri Chun-ho. The textile worker had been located, alive but severely beaten, held in a secret detention facility controlled by Choi's network. He was immediately transferred to a secure hospital, receiving the best medical care. His wife, Ri Myung, was informed and brought to his bedside. Kim Jong-un felt a flicker of satisfaction. At least one injustice had been partially rectified, but the larger battle still loomed. The weight of leadership was a heavy cloak, but he wore it with unwavering determination, ready to face the storm that was gathering. The days that followed were a blur of strategic maneuvers and covert preparations. Kim Jong-un maintained his public persona, attending cultural performances, overseeing military drills, and meeting with foreign dignitaries. He was seen smiling, clapping, and engaging in seemingly mundane activities, all while orchestrating a complex counterintelligence operation that spanned continents. His ability to compartmentalize to project an image of calm authority while dealing with a profound internal crisis was a testament to his disciplined mind. One morning, he visited a military academy, observing a tactical exercise. He watched as young cadets navigated an obstacle course, demonstrating their physical prowess and strategic thinking. He delivered a speech emphasizing the importance of ideological purity and unwavering loyalty to the party and the supreme leader. "Our military," he proclaimed, his voice echoing across the parade ground, "is the shield of our nation, the guarantor of our revolution. It must be strong, disciplined, and absolutely devoted to the defense of our socialist fatherland. He then personally inspected a new line of domestically produced armored vehicles, asking detailed questions about their specifications and performance. Behind the scenes, the Macau operation was moving into its final stages. General Jong-Un'S teams had meticulously planned every detail. They had identified the precise location of Kim Jong-Un's casino, his daily routines, and the composition of his security detail. They had also infiltrated his communication networks, gathering crucial intelligence on his contacts and the extent of his foreign backing. The intelligence confirmed that Kang was indeed working with a consortium of foreign intelligence agencies, primarily from a powerful Western nation, who sought to exploit internal divisions within North Korea. Their objective was to install a puppet regime, one that would be more amenable to their geopolitical interests. Kim Jong-un held a final briefing with General Pak and General Ri in a secure underground bunker, a facility designed to withstand any external threat. The room was stark, dominated by large screens displaying satellite imagery of Macau and detailed schematics of Kong's casino. General Ri Kim Jong-un began, his voice devoid of emotion. "Are your teams ready? Is every contingency accounted for?" General Ri, a man whose face rarely betrayed emotion, nodded. "Supreme Leader, our teams are in position. They are highly trained, equipped with the latest technology, and fully committed to the mission. We have established secure communication channels and extraction routes. The operation is set for tonight." Kim Jong-un studied the screens, his gaze lingering on Kim Jong-un's face, displayed prominently on one monitor. "This man," he said, "has betrayed his nation. He has conspired with our enemies to destabilize our state. He will face the full wrath of our justice. Ensure that he and his key associates are brought back alive. We need their testimony, their confessions, to expose the full extent of this foreign interference." He then turned to General Pak. "General, once the Macau operation is complete, we will move on the internal conspirators. Deputy Director Choi's network must be dismantled. Every single individual involved will be held accountable. There will be no mercy for traitors." The strategic moves were now in motion. The chess pieces had been placed, and the game was about to reach its climax. Kim Jong-un felt a surge of cold determination. He understood that this was not just about punishing a few individuals. It was about sending a clear message to the world. North Korea would not be trifled with. Its sovereignty was non-negotiable, and its leadership would protect its people from all threats, both internal and external. He dismissed his generals, then stood alone in the bunker, the silence amplifying the weight of the impending operation. He looked at a large map of the Korean peninsula, illuminated on one of the screens. His nation, his people, depended on him, and he would not fail. As night fell over Macau, a city glittering with neon lights and the promise of illicit fortunes, General Jong-Un'S elite operatives moved into position. They were a small, highly specialized unit, chosen for their stealth, combat skills, and unwavering loyalty. Their target, Kim Jong-un, was hosting a high-stakes poker game in a private, heavily fortified VIP room on the top floor of his casino. This was a deliberate choice by Ri's team. The presence of high-profile guests would provide cover for their infiltration, and the element of surprise would be maximized. Back in Pyongyang, Kim Jong-un was not in his usual residence. He had moved to a secure command center, a bunker deep beneath the capital, where he could monitor the operation in real time. The room was filled with banks of screens displaying live satellite feeds, thermal imaging, and encrypted communication channels. General Pak stood by his side, relaying intelligence updates from the internal investigation. The network of Deputy Director Choi was being systematically dismantled. Arrests were made swiftly and silently, ensuring no panic or widespread alarm. The evidence gathered from Choi's office and his associates confirmed the depth of the conspiracy, including detailed plans for a propaganda campaign to discredit the supreme leader and sow dissent among the populace. On one of the large screens, a red dot representing Ri's team moved stealthily through the service corridors of Kong's casino. The operatives, disguised as maintenance staff and high-rolling gamblers, bypassed security checkpoints with practiced ease. Their objective was to reach the VIP room, neutralize Kong's personal guards, and extract him and his key lieutenants. The tension in the command center was palpable. Kim Jong-un watched every movement, his face a mask of intense concentration. He rarely spoke, only occasionally issuing a terse command or asking for clarification. Meanwhile, the internal purge continued. General Pak reported that several high-ranking military officers and party officials had been implicated in Choi's conspiracy. Their motives varied. Some were driven by ambition, others by greed, and a few by genuine ideological disagreement, manipulated by Kong's promises of a better future. "Supreme Leader," General Pak reported, his voice grave, "the scale of the betrayal is larger than initially estimated. We have uncovered evidence of foreign funds being channeled to these individuals. Disguised as business investments." Kim Jong-un nodded slowly. "The depth of their depravity is boundless. They would sell their nation for a handful of foreign currency, ensure that every penny is traced, every foreign contact identified. As the Macau operation reached its climax, Ri's team breached the VIP room. The element of surprise was complete. Kang Min-jun, caught mid-hand, looked up in shock as the masked operatives burst in. His personal guards, though well-trained, were overwhelmed by the speed and precision of Ri's men. A brief, brutal struggle ensued, quickly suppressed. Kang and his associates were subdued, blindfolded, and swiftly extracted through a pre-planned route, disappearing into the labyrinthine streets of Macau. The entire operation took less than 10 minutes. Back in the command center, a collective sigh of relief swept through the room. Mission accomplished. Supreme Leader, General Ri's voice crackled over the secure line. Targets secured. Extraction underway. Kim Jong-un allowed himself a small, almost imperceptible nod of satisfaction. The trap had been set, and it had sprung perfectly. The external threat had been neutralized. Now, it was time to deal with the internal traitors. He turned to General Pak. General, activate the final phase of the internal operation. The time for whispers is over. The time for justice has come. The atmosphere in the bunker shifted from tense anticipation to grim determination. The night was far from over, but a decisive victory had been achieved. The conspirators, both foreign and domestic, were about to learn the true meaning of the Supreme Leader's resolve. The dawn broke over Pyongyang, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. But for the conspirators, it was the darkest of mornings. Kang Min-jun and his key associates, having been swiftly extracted from Macau, were now held in a maximum security facility on the outskirts of Pyongyang. Their initial bravado had evaporated, replaced by fear and desperation as they realized the full extent of their predicament. Under intense, but systematic, interrogation by General Pak's most skilled interrogators, they began to confess, their testimonies confirming the intricate details of the plot and the involvement of foreign intelligence agencies. Kim Jong-un, having returned to his private residence, reviewed the transcripts of Kang's confessions. The evidence was damning. Detailed plans for economic sabotage, propaganda campaigns, and even targeted assassinations of loyal officials. The foreign intelligence agencies had promised Kang and his faction immense power and wealth, envisioning a North Korea that would be a compliant satellite state. The betrayal was complete, and the threat to national sovereignty was undeniable. Later that morning, Kim Jong-un convened a special session of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea. The atmosphere in the Grand Assembly Hall was somber, heavy with the weight of the revelations. The senior party officials, many of whom had been unaware of the depth of the conspiracy, sat in stunned silence as General Pak presented the irrefutable evidence. Kang Min-jun's confessions, intercepted communications, and the detailed plans for the coup. He also presented the confessions of Deputy Director Choi Jin-woo and his internal network, exposing their roles in fabricating charges, including the frame-up of Ri Chun-ho. Kim Jong-un then rose to address the committee. His voice, usually measured, now carried an undeniable edge of cold fury. Comrades, he began, his gaze sweeping across the faces of the assembled officials. We have uncovered a grave conspiracy, a heinous act of treason, orchestrated by internal traitors in league with hostile foreign forces. These individuals, driven by greed and ambition, sought to destabilize our nation, to undermine our socialist system, and to betray the trust of our people. He paused, allowing his words to sink in. They believed they could operate in the shadows, that their treachery would go unpunished. They were wrong. He then detailed the full extent of the plot, from the frame-up of Ri Chun-ho to the elaborate plans for a foreign-backed coup. He spoke of the foreign intelligence agencies' attempts to exploit internal divisions, to turn Koreans against Koreans. His words were a powerful indictment, a call to unity against external aggression and internal betrayal. Justice, he declared, his voice rising, will be swift and absolute. There will be no mercy for those who betray our nation, our party, and our people. Let this be a clear message to all who would conspire against us. We will find you, we will expose you, and you will face the full consequences of your actions. The response from the committee was immediate and unanimous. A resolution was passed, condemning the conspirators and authorizing their immediate trial and punishment. The internal purge, which had been conducted discreetly, now became public. High-ranking officials, military commanders, and party cadres implicated in the plot were arrested, their names read out, their crimes detailed. The scale of the arrests was unprecedented, sending shockwaves through the entire state apparatus. The message was clear: loyalty to the Supreme Leader and the nation was paramount, and betrayal would be met with the harshest retribution. Kim Jong-un then turned his attention to Ri Chun-ho. The textile worker, still recovering from his ordeal, was brought before the committee. His innocence was publicly affirmed, his loyalty commended. He was offered compensation, a new home, and the promise of a secure future for his family. Ri Jin-woo, the boy whose desperate plea had started it all, was also present, his eyes wide with a mixture of awe and relief. Kim Jong-un looked at the boy, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. "Your father's honor has been restored, Jin-woo," he said, his voice softer now, "and the traitors who wronged him, and our nation, will face justice." The boy, overwhelmed, could only nod, tears of gratitude streaming down his face. The confrontation was over, the traitors exposed, and justice, in its most absolute form, was about to be served. The supreme leader's response had indeed paralyzed his assassins, not just with fear, but with the crushing weight of their own exposed treachery. The aftermath of the purge was profound. The state security apparatus was thoroughly cleansed, its integrity restored under the direct oversight of General Pak. The foreign intelligence agencies, their plot exposed and their assets neutralized, retreated, their attempts to destabilize North Korea having failed spectacularly. The message had been sent, both internally and externally. The supreme leader's grip on power was absolute, and his resolve to protect the nation was unwavering. In the days and weeks that followed, Kim Jong-un focused on rebuilding trust and reinforcing national unity. He made numerous public appearances, visiting factories, farms, and schools, engaging directly with the people. He spoke of the importance of vigilance against external threats and internal corruption, but also of the bright future that awaited their socialist nation. His speeches emphasized self-reliance, technological innovation, and the unwavering spirit of the Korean people. He wore a variety of outfits, from his signature Mao suit to more casual attire during field inspections, projecting an image of accessibility and dynamism. Ri Chun-ho, fully recovered, was reinstated at the Pyongyang textile factory, promoted to a supervisory position, and given a new, modern apartment for his family. His wife, Ri Myung, received advanced medical care, and her health steadily improved. Ra Jin-woo, the boy who had dared to confront the supreme leader, became a symbol of the leader's commitment to justice for all citizens. He was enrolled in a prestigious school, his education personally overseen by party officials. His story, carefully disseminated through state media, served as a powerful narrative. Even the humblest citizen could appeal directly to the supreme leader, and justice would be served. Kim Jong-un continued his rigorous daily schedule. His mornings still began with meticulous reviews of state affairs, followed by strategic meetings and policy discussions. He oversaw new initiatives for economic development, focusing on improving living standards and strengthening national defense. He personally inspected new infrastructure projects from high-rise apartments to modern hospitals, ensuring that the promises made to the people were being fulfilled. His meals remained simple but nutritious, often shared with key advisors, where informal discussions about state matters would take place. One crisp autumn morning, Kim Jong-un stood on a balcony overlooking the bustling streets of Pyongyang. The city, vibrant and alive, was a testament to the resilience of his people. He thought of the boy Jin-woo and the desperate plea that had set in motion a chain of events far greater than anyone could have imagined. It was a reminder that true leadership was not just about wielding power, but about listening to the voices of the people, even the smallest among them, and ensuring that justice prevailed. The conspiracy had been a dark chapter, a test of his leadership, but it had also revealed the strength and unity of his nation. He turned from the balcony, a sense of quiet determination settling over him. The challenges ahead were immense, but he faced them with renewed resolve. The sun was rising higher, casting a golden glow over the capital, signaling a new dawn for North Korea. The traitors had been purged, the foreign plot thwarted, and the trust between the leader and his people had been reaffirmed. Kim Jong-un, supreme leader, walked back into his study, ready to face the day, ready to lead his nation into the future, secure in the knowledge that justice, once demanded, had been delivered, and that his response had indeed paralyzed his assassins, leaving them exposed and defeated. The story of Ri Jin-woo and his father would forever be etched into the annals of the nation, a testament to the unwavering power of the supreme leader's justice. The boy, whose name was now known to the highest echelons of the state, was gently guided away from the scene of his father's avenged honor. He was not taken to an orphanage, but to a specialized state facility, a sanctuary for the orphaned children of national martyrs, nestled discreetly within the verdant hills surrounding Pyongyang. Here, the air was clean, the gardens meticulously kept, and the staff, chosen for their unparalleled compassion and discretion, understood the delicate balance of grief and hope. For the first few weeks, the boy, still reeling from the trauma of his father's brutal murder and the subsequent swift justice, moved through his days in a haze. Nightmares, vivid and cruel, often snatched him from sleep, replaying the horror of that night, the cold glint of the assassin's blade, the desperate, final plea of his father. Counselors, trained in the most advanced psychological techniques, worked patiently with him, helping him to articulate his pain, to understand that his father's sacrifice was not in vain. He was given a small, private room, adorned with books and simple toys, a stark contrast to the humble dwelling he had shared with his father. Yet the emptiness in his heart remained a vast, echoing chasm. One crisp autumn afternoon, a black limousine, its windows tinted, glided silently into the facility's courtyard. The staff, usually composed and serene, became a flurry of hushed activity. A figure emerged, tall and imposing, yet moving with a surprising grace. It was Marshal Kim Jong-un. He had come not as the supreme leader, but as a man who had witnessed a child's raw courage and profound loss. He found the boy in the facility's library, tracing the lines of a faded map. Kim Jong-un knelt, bringing himself to the boy's eye level. His voice, usually resonant with command, was soft, almost paternal. "You are a brave boy," he said, his gaze unwavering. "Your father was a hero, and heroes are never forgotten." He spoke of his own father, of the weight of expectation, of the duty to protect. It was a conversation not of pity, but of shared understanding, of a burden that only a select few could truly comprehend. The boy, initially shy, found himself speaking, recounting fragments of his father's life, his dreams, his unwavering loyalty. Kim Jong-un listened, truly listened, his expression thoughtful. A week later, a solemn ceremony was held in the Grand People's Study House. The boy, dressed in a crisp, new uniform, stood beside Kim Jong-un on a raised dais, before a gathering of high-ranking officials, military leaders, and the nation's most decorated heroes. His father was posthumously awarded the Hero of the Republic Medal, the highest honor the nation could bestow. The medal, a gleaming star, was presented to the boy by Kim Jong-un himself. As the heavy, cold medal rested in his small palm, a wave of conflicting emotions washed over him, immense pride for his father's valor, a searing grief for his absence, and a profound sense of responsibility. He clutched the medal tightly, his knuckles white. The applause was thunderous, a roaring tribute that seemed to shake the very foundations of the hall. In that moment, the boy felt a flicker of something new, a nascent spark of purpose amidst the ashes of his sorrow. He was no longer just a victim. He was the son of a hero, entrusted with a legacy. The transition from the quiet solace of the martyrs' facility to the rigorous environment of the elite Manjiangde Revolutionary School was challenging. This academy, reserved for the children of national heroes and the most promising youth, was a crucible designed to forge future leaders. The boy, now known by his full name, Kim Jong-un, found himself surrounded by peers who, like him, carried the weight of expectation and the echoes of past sacrifices. His days were a relentless schedule of academic study, physical training, and ideological indoctrination. He excelled in his classes, particularly in history and military strategy. Driven by an insatiable desire to understand the forces that had shaped his nation and claimed his father. Yet, the nights remained a battleground. The nightmares persisted, though less frequent, their edges dulled by the passage of time and the structured routine of his new life. He often woke in a cold sweat. The image of his father's final moments burned into his memory. Survivor's guilt, a silent, insidious companion, whispered doubts in his ear. Why him? Why not me? He found solace in the camaraderie of his classmates. Among them was Pak Young-ho, a boisterous, quick-witted boy whose father had fallen in a border skirmish, and Rimirin, a quiet, brilliant girl whose parents were scientists lost in a tragic industrial accident. They understood, without needing words, the unique burden they all carried. Together, they pushed each other, academically and physically, forming an unbreakable bond forged in shared ambition and unspoken grief. Kalsu poured himself into his studies, devouring texts on political science, economics, and military tactics. He saw education not merely as a path to personal advancement, but as a weapon, a tool to protect his country and prevent others from suffering the fate of his father. His determination was fierce, a quiet fire that burned steadily within him. He would honor his father's memory not with tears, but with unwavering dedication and service. His academic reports were exemplary, his teachers noting his sharp intellect and profound sense of duty. He was a natural leader, often organizing study groups and leading discussions, his insights often surprising even his instructors. The first year was a period of intense transformation, a painful but necessary shedding of the child he once was, replaced by the nascent form of the man he was destined to become. As Kalsu entered his second and third years at the academy, his progress did not go unnoticed. Marshal Kim Jong-un, true to his word, maintained a personal interest in the boy's development. Periodically, Kalsu would be summoned to private audiences. Not in the grand halls of power, but in the more intimate settings of the leader's private study or a quiet garden pavilion. These were not formal inspections, but rather informal conversations, where Kim Jong-un would probe Kalsu's understanding of current affairs, his thoughts on leadership, and his personal aspirations. He challenged Kalsu, not with harsh criticism, but with insightful questions that forced the boy to think critically, to consider the broader implications of every decision. He saw in Kalsu not just a bright student, but a spirit tempered by fire, a young mind capable of great things. Kalsu, in turn, thrived under this unique mentorship. He excelled particularly in subjects related to national security and intelligence, demonstrating an uncanny ability to analyze complex situations, identify vulnerabilities, and devise strategic countermeasures. His instructors, many of whom were retired military intelligence officers, recognized his innate talent. Beyond academics, his physical training intensified. He was introduced to advanced martial arts, mastering disciplines that honed his reflexes, strength, and mental discipline. He learned to move with purpose, to anticipate, to defend. These years were a period of profound character development. The victim, the grieving child, slowly receded, replaced by a focused, resilient young man. He learned that true strength lay not in brute force, but in unwavering resolve, strategic thinking, and an unshakable moral compass. He began to grasp the immense responsibility of leadership, the constant vigilance required to protect a nation, and the heavy sacrifices it demanded. He understood that justice was not merely about punishment, but about restoring balance, about ensuring the safety and prosperity of the people. His transformation was complete. He was no longer just a student, but a burgeoning warrior, a guardian in the making. The day of graduation arrived, a culmination of 5 years of relentless effort and profound personal growth. Kolsu, now a young man of 18, stood tall and confident, his uniform crisp, his gaze steady. He graduated with the highest honors, his name etched into the Academy's hallowed records as one of its most distinguished alumni. As the valedictorian, he delivered a speech that resonated deeply with everyone present. He spoke not of personal achievement, but of collective duty, of the sacrifices made by generations, and of the unwavering spirit of the nation. He spoke of his father, not with sorrow, but with profound gratitude and pride, acknowledging the legacy of courage and loyalty that had guided his own path. "My father," he declared, his voice clear and strong, "taught me that true strength lies in serving something greater than oneself. His memory is not a burden, but a beacon, illuminating the path of duty." Immediately after graduation, Kolsu was offered a coveted position within the Ministry of State Security, a direct entry into the nation's most elite intelligence and protection services. It was an honor rarely bestowed, a testament to his exceptional abilities and the personal endorsement of the supreme leader. Before embarking on his new career, he made a pilgrimage. He visited his father's grave, a simple, dignified stone in the martyrs' cemetery. He stood there for a long time, not weeping, but reflecting. The raw grief had long since mellowed into a quiet reverence. He understood now, with the clarity of a young man who had found his purpose, that his father's death, while tragic, had not been meaningless. It had been a catalyst, a spark that ignited a fire of justice and purpose within him. The vengeance sought by a desperate boy had transformed into the unwavering commitment of a man dedicated to protecting his nation, ensuring that no other child would have to beg for justice as he once had. He felt his father's presence, not as a ghost of the past, but as a guiding spirit for his future. Years later, the young man, now a seasoned operative within the national security apparatus, found himself in a bustling market district, overseeing a routine intelligence gathering operation. His codename was Phoenix, a fitting moniker for one who had risen from the ashes of tragedy. His senses, honed by years of rigorous training, were acutely aware of his surroundings. As he moved through the throng, a sudden commotion drew his attention. A small boy, no older than he had been that fateful night, was clinging to the leg of a distraught woman, tears streaming down his face. The woman was pleading with a group of stern-faced men, her voice laced with desperation. It was a minor dispute, a misunderstanding over a vendor stall, but the boy's terror was palpable, a chilling echo of his own past. Without hesitation, Phoenix stepped forward, his presence commanding immediate attention. He calmly assessed the situation, his voice firm but empathetic. He mediated the dispute, his authority undeniable, his compassion evident. The boy, initially cowering, looked up at him with wide, hopeful eyes, a silent plea for protection. Phoenix knelt, just as Kim Jong-un had once knelt before him, and offered a reassuring smile. He spoke softly to the child, promising that justice would prevail, that he was safe. In that moment, a profound realization washed over him. He was not merely an agent of the state. He was a protector, a shield against the injustices that threaten the innocent. The cycle of vengeance had been broken, replaced by a cycle of protection. His father's sacrifice, once a source of searing pain, had become the foundation of his purpose. Vengeance had indeed become justice, and justice, in turn, had become his life's unwavering purpose. He was no longer defined by what he had lost, but by what he had become, a guardian, a beacon of hope for those who could not protect themselves. On the anniversary of his father's passing, Phoenix stood before the memorial, a grand stoic monument dedicated to the nation's fallen heroes. The air was still, the only sound the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. He placed a single white chrysanthemum at the base of the monument, a silent tribute. He thought of his father, of the man who had instilled in him the values of loyalty and courage, values that had been tested and forged in the crucible of his own life. A familiar, powerful presence approached from behind. Phoenix turned, his posture respectful, but not subservient. Marshal Kim Jong-un stood there, his gaze sweeping over the memorial, then settling on Phoenix. He would be proud, Kim Jong-un said, his voice deep, carrying the weight of history. Proud of the man you have become. Phoenix bowed his head slightly. Marshal, I owe you everything. You gave me not just justice for my father, but a future, a purpose. Kim Jong-un placed a hand on Phoenix's shoulder, a rare gesture of personal warmth. No, young man, you found your own purpose. I merely cleared the path. Your father's legacy lives on, not just in stone, but in your unwavering dedication, in the protection you offer to our people. He paused, his eyes distant, reflecting on the past. Vengeance is a fleeting satisfaction. Justice, however, builds a nation. And purpose, true purpose, builds a man. Phoenix looked at the memorial, then back at the supreme leader, a profound understanding passing between them. The boy who had begged for vengeance had indeed become a man who understood that true strength lay in safeguarding the future, not just avenging the past. He was no longer defined by the tragedy that had shaped him, but by the unwavering commitment to justice and protection that now defined his every action. With a final, respectful nod to Kim Jong-un, Phoenix turned and walked away from the memorial, not burdened by the past, but empowered by it. He walked towards the horizon, a figure of quiet strength and resolute purpose, ready to face whatever challenges the future held. A true guardian of his nation, his father's legacy living vibrantly within him. The sun, breaking through the clouds, cast a long, hopeful shadow before him, illuminating the path of a man who had transformed sorrow into strength and vengeance into an enduring purpose. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like.